Ever since their inception in 1984, Naughty Dog has been producing top quality titles for the PlayStation console brand. Their earliest titles such as Rings of Power and Way of the Warrior, while successful, didn't leave much of an impact. But after the success of the original Crash Bandicoot trilogy for the PlayStation 1, the company would find themselves set on the path to not only develop some of the greatest games ever made, but to become one of the most respected and greatest video game developers of the gaming industry. Hi there, my name is Matthew Cooper, and I proudly present to you The Legacy of Naughty Dog. This documentary is to discuss Naughty Dog, their history, and of course, their legacy. I will be mainly commentating on how and when Naughty Dog was founded and how much they have accomplished over the past 35 years. As for the structure, this documentary will be comprised of 3 sections. The first section will focus on Naughty Dog's history, where I will mainly be discussing when they were founded, who the key people are, and what franchises they have developed. The second section will see the interviews take place, where I will be interviewing 3 people who have had experience with some of Naughty Dog's most notable games, such as Crash Bandicoot and Uncharted. This will help me gather more insight and opinions on Naughty Dog and to see how much of an impact they left on the world. And finally, the third section will see me talking about how Naughty Dog left such an impact on the gaming community, the status of the company now, and what future projects they will be working on. Bearing all that in mind, let's begin our look back on Naughty Dog's success. Back in 1984, 2 high school students known as Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin came together to create video games by founding a company called Jam Software. This company would hold this name until the 2 founders renamed the company Naughty Dog in 1989. Throughout the early 1990s, the company was known for developing independent titles such as Keith the Thief, Rings of Power, and Way of the Warrior. It wasn't until 1994 where Universal Interactive Studios signed Naughty Dog to create 3 additional games. Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin opted to create a 3-dimensional game where the camera would always be placed behind the playable character. The game was eventually named Crash Bandicoot after the title character and was released for the PlayStation 1 in 1996. This game would launch a successful trilogy of platform games that would be released yearly until 1998. After the release of the racing spin-off Crash Team Racing in 1999, Naughty Dog moved on to the PlayStation 2 hardware to create a brand new IP. This IP would be first released in 2001 in the form of Jak and Daxter, the precursor Legacy. Jak and Daxter was an open-world collectathon platform game that saw the dynamic duo traveling across their homeland in order to stop the evil god Acheron from corrupting the world. This game's technology was very impressive, as Naughty Dog made use of their new game engine, Kinetica, by creating a seamless open world with no loading times or the presence of glitches. Jak 2 and Jak 3 were drastic changes from what was established in the original game, as it shifted towards a more darker oriented story and introduced new gameplay mechanics. These games featured huger open worlds such as Haven City and the Wasteland, and a new mission-based structure and a huge utility of weapons to utilize. After the Jak and Daxter trilogy, Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin unfortunately departed from Naughty Dog in 2004. And Amy Hennig was later placed in the director's chair for a brand new IP for the PlayStation 3. The new game was codenamed Big, and it would later evolve into Uncharted Drake's Fortune, released for the PlayStation 3 in 2007. This was Naughty Dog's first game to have fully realistic characters and worlds, and also having a bigger scope. It was also their first game to fully utilize motion capture, in order to create the characters during the cutscenes. The franchise saw the efforts of treasure hunter Nathan Drake as he and his allies traveled around the world to seek out mystical treasures and long-lost cities. These games emphasize a mixture of genres such as action-adventure, third-person shooting, and exploration, making plenty of room for variety. These games also featured segments that demonstrated their epic scope and spectacular action sequences, such as the train level in Uncharted 2 and the plane sequence in Uncharted 3. Not only are these games considered to be among the greatest video games ever made, but also cemented Naughty Dog's status as one of the most respected developers in the gaming industry. During the 5-year gap between Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4, Naughty Dog conceived a new IP for the PlayStation 3. This is where it would see Neil Druckmann became director for the project. Druckmann directed the project along with Bruce Straley, and the game would be named The Last of Us, and was released for the PlayStation 3 in 2013. The game is set in 2033, 20 years after an outbreak of a global pandemic ravaging the planet and infected the population. It sees the main character Joel, as he escorts an immune girl called Ellie across the United States to the Firefly militia in hopes of creating a cure. The game received universal acclaim upon release for its emotional storytelling, survival gameplay, and characterization. Now for this section, I wanted to dedicate this time towards the interviews I've done. As part of the research I've conducted, I've interviewed 3 people who have played some of Naughty Dog's games. These interviews are to show you how much of an impact Naughty Dog has left on the gaming community, and how favourable people are towards these games. I've also asked them if they agree with everybody in saying that Naughty Dog are one of the most respected developers in the video game industry.
I don't really know much about Naughty Dog as a game development company. I've played a lot of their games, from Crash Bandicoot all the way up to the most recent Uncharted and Last of Us.
I know that they're well known for their graphical quality that they put into their games. As well as their old school games. They were phenomenal at the time.
Crash I have such fond memories for, but I feel like it's really hard to compare it to their other work, since it comes from a different time where gameplay was a lot different and consumers were looking for difference as well. But The Last of Us I feel like was one of the standout games from this generation, definitely.
For the Uncharted series, the first 2 games were phenomenal. They were excellent. You know, you went to the world, you explored it, you fought bad guys.
I think the Uncharted games and Last of Us are great leaps in game design and storytelling. Yeah, I always feel the games are such a good device to tell stories.
The train scene from Uncharted 2 was a great way to immerse a player and get it right into the action immediately and make you feel like you're actually, you know, a part of Nathan Drake's life.
I certainly think that games like Uncharted and Last of Us allow us to have these amazing characters, well-defined characters, 3-dimensional characters, allows us to kind of follow them and grow with them and become attached to them, and sometimes even lose them, in the course of the story and stories.
I wasn't too big of a fan of Uncharted 3's story, as it was just like, it didn't feel like I was progressing anywhere. It just felt like it was taking me through different scenarios. Not really like anything's happening until the end of the game, where it felt like actually something was happening. 2's though, just constant progression. It felt like, you know, you felt like you were doing stuff and past events tied with future events as well, and it all just made sense and you kept going through it and it was all a great time. I'd say that they're a fantastic company, but I wouldn't say that they're best. I'd say they're definitely up there with, in my opinion, Santa Monica Studios.
A lot of my favourite games come from like Blizzard, for example, and comparing them, the games are obviously stand out on their own, but notably I feel like Naughty Dog's a lot more pro-consumer.
I think Naughty Dog is one of the best game developers out there for PlayStation. They're definitely challenging what the consoles can do in terms of graphics. They're definitely challenging storytelling and pushing storytelling. So I think they're really good. I wouldn't say they're the best, but I definitely feel like they are pushing the medium forward.
So there you go. The people I just interviewed seem to agree on how good Naughty Dog's reputation is. They seemed very favourable towards some of their games, most notably Uncharted and The Last of Us, which was the most popular. And after all of that, Naughty Dog without a doubt left their mark on the world with these franchises. Naughty Dog has hit their stride by demonstrating their passion for these games. It's evident from these games on how much they were created from nothing but a group of remarkable people with the passion and the originality to make great games. No, fantastic games. It's safe to say people will not stop talking about these games for years to come. With all that being said though, I'm really curious as to what Naughty Dog has planned for future projects. Well, there's a couple of games they're working on actually. First off, Naughty Dog developed a standalone expansion game to the Uncharted series. It is called Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which was released for the PlayStation 4 in 2017, 1 year after Uncharted 4 was released. Naughty Dog announced a sequel to The Last of Us titled The Last of Us Part 2. It is currently being developed for the PlayStation 4 with no release date announced. The game is highly anticipated for the gaming community and is estimated to be released in either 2019 or 2020. And that was the legacy of Naughty Dog. I really hope all of you have enjoyed this documentary and found it useful. I really hope this documentary has given you enough insight on Naughty Dog, their work, and how much praise they receive. So that's all for today, so thank you very much for watching.